People say no 5 times before they say yes. In a saturated area, the way I like to look at it is most of the other reps are doing the heavy lifting for me. So all I have to do is get in front of them, build a little bit of a connection, ask them, hey, what is it that you guys would actually need to see, to move forward? If you're given a unique mind, it's a gift if you want it to be a gift. It's a liability if you want it to be a liability, right? So I think it just all comes back to, are you ready to give yourself that chance? But at the end of the day, it's incredibly empowering when you learn how to be your own biggest supporter. It's incredibly enlightening when you realize how to have those internal conversations and how to channel that to someone else's situation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Behind the Knock podcast. I'm here today with Callum Clemo.
Excited to be here.
How you doing, man?
It's a fantastic day. It's nice to be back in St. George. It is a little bit hot, but makes me thankful to be alive. Having shade at the house, pretty cool.
That's right, man. That's right. So we were just having a conversation before this, talking about your last name. Mm-hmm. You want to dive back into that?
So Callum is Scottish, a little bit of Welsh, Clemo last name too. So I'm Scottish heritage. I was born in England, but most of my family's from Aberdeen, from Glasgow. So that's where we get the high hips and the slightly higher height. But it's rooted in English name with Scottish boundaries and a little bit of Welsh at the end. My family's pretty evenly spread out between Wales. My dad's side was born in Cornwall, and then my mom's side's from Aberdeen in Scotland.
Nice, man. So tell me about your upbringing a little bit. You said that you were born in England.
So born and raised in England. I was born in Newcastle. We call it Newcastle upon Tyne because it's on a very special river. But pretty normal upbringing. I was raised by my mom. My dad had to make a lot of decisions to help the family who wasn't there. So I ended up going into kind of like a boarding school situation. It was a super awesome experience. I got to play rugby, cricket, croquet, grass hockey, field hockey, swimming, the whole 9 yards and whatnot. So that kind of opened up my idea of what America was too, because it was a transnational school. So we had a ton of people from South Korea, all over Africa, all over Europe, that sort of thing. And then my mom actually met my stepdad, I want to say in around 2008. And so obviously he's from America. He was born in Palo Alto, California. And so as I kind of finished up that schooling, we had a family decision to make. He wanted to move over here for his job. And my mom ended up bringing me over here. So that's how I ended up in Chicago. And that's where I get the cool accent from too, that little bit of East Coast twist. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it's a little unique, but it's what brought me here.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you land in Chicago?
I want to say in early 2011, 2012. I moved over here right before high school. So I got into the International Baccalaureate program in Lincoln Park High School in Chicago. Basically, it's just a slightly different program. You get college credits by the end of it. And so, I was 14 years old. And that's kind of how my accent started to land too. When you're in your early age, accents start to develop at 12, 13. So that was a pretty cool experience. Chicago was not like any type of city I've actually seen before. I don't know if you guys have been to England, but when you look at the infrastructure, it's a lot more brick homes, a lot more second story, third story houses. So to get to Chicago, to see the John Hancock building, the Willis building, I hadn't seen buildings that tall before. So that was a very, very cool experience. And I was about 13, 14 years old.
Cool. And then moving past that, what ultimately brought you here?
Out west?
Yeah.
So I went to school out here. I went to Dixie State for a little bit. I had some friends that had moved over to St. George. It was kind of a nicer area. So I was interested. I want to be closer to my parents who at the time had moved to California. However, after getting into school, I very quickly realized I had an itch to create, right? So I ended up leaving Dixie College after a couple months to go and start a clothing business in Las Vegas. That's when I really cemented kind of this side of America being my home. So I first started trying to resell clothes, reselling hype gear, creating my own brand. I crashed and burned, as you do at 21, but it was an absolutely awesome experience. And that's kind of actually what led me into the window industry too, was just wanting to take that itch, wanting to create, wanting to get out there and make my own path. And so I had my kid, Lennox. She is 3 now, but couple months after she was born, I was thinking, is Vegas really the place that I want to raise her? So we decided, hey, you know what? Let's move to St. George. That's where most of my kid's mom's parents are from, her family. And it's just a really, really nice environment to be in, especially for families. So yeah, that's kind of what brought me over to St. George.
It's awesome, man. Well, we're glad you made it here.
I'm glad. Other than the heat, still getting used to it. But yeah, I'm glad to be over here. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people.
Yeah, but the heat's the same in Las Vegas, too.
Yes, but I could hide in the house a lot more. Vegas is open 24/7, so I was a bit of a night owl. I would usually start my day a little bit later, especially being in the fashion reselling scene. A lot of people are getting out. It's very intertwined with kind of like the club scene, the party scene, kind of promotion, what's hype and what's not. So I was able to avoid the sun, but you know, I like it. I got a nice farmer's tan here from the sun too, so I like to represent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're white as snow, baby. Love it.
Well, see, that's a proper farmer's tan right there. We got the true definition.
It's the real deal.
So
it's the real deal. So, moving past that, you got into, was the window industry the first thing that you really did professionally after getting out of Las Vegas?
Absolutely. So it was JKR Windows. That was the first time I had, to be honest, really joined a different company. So I'd spent most of my life kind of moving around, trying to make the right choices, trying to find myself in the right situations. But it also came from a place of being stubborn, right? Not wanting to really be coachable, be willing to grow with other people and to kind of learn. So I had my buddy Tyler Lang, who I've known for probably 12 or 13 years. He found his way to JKR. And I watched him change his whole life from bartending, working like every other day, to he actually got into the space. He made, I think, $6,500 his first week. And I'm just sitting there like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to do this. And then to see the freedom of time that he had was one of the biggest things too. So I took that chance with JKR Windows. And I'm very happy I did, because I'm now in my 4th year in the door-to-door window space. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, the journey is always going to be a journey, but as far as the growth I've had as an individual, as far as just the possibilities that my mind has opened up to, both internally and externally, couldn't be happier.
It's awesome. So lots of personal development growth as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't even know the right word. I could not state the amount of growth that happened in a sentence. I mean, I'm a completely different person. I think completely differently. I'm a way better father from the disciplines this job has taught me. I communicate better with my family, my friends, my peers. I'm able to articulate myself a lot better with what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go. And I'd say the biggest thing too is, until I found the door-to-door window space, I was pretty lost. Like, I had a ton of energy to give, but I had no real guidance as far as where to apply that and how to make it happen. So I'd say probably the biggest growth is just, and this comes from getting a sense of identity, but just having that direction. And yeah, that's why I'm still here.
It's awesome, man. So previous organization, we worked together for a little while. And you primarily did pods, correct?
Yeah, I was on a pod for, I want to say 14 months. I mean, we did a couple pod trips that were 4 or 5 weeks long. So we really kind of embraced that a little bit. But it was a phenomenal experience. I got to see everywhere, all over town, all over the country. I feel so much more comfortable with where I'm at. But yeah, we were predominantly pods.
That's awesome, man. Can you explain, just for people that don't understand what a pod is, can you explain kind of what that dynamic looks like?
So a pod is short for performance on demand. And so in-town knocking is great, right? But it's pretty repetitive. For those individuals that are really trying to dive into this space, they're really trying to break the boundaries and thresholds of what they've been comfortable with. The pod structure is a great way to do it, right? Because not only are you going to constantly find yourself going to new places, speaking to new people, learning new cultures. You know, each town, everywhere you go, there's always a little bit different. But yeah, so performance on demand pods, you're basically on the front line. You are the varsity team. It gives you an opportunity to explore America and make money where other people haven't, right? One of my favorite things about pods is when you can actually travel to an area that's not as congested with other salespeople. And that's going to directly translate to your bank account, to your confidence, and to your progress at the job as well.
100%. That's a great way to put it, man. The varsity team. You are the varsity team.
It's the Super Bowl. Once you're on that pod, it goes. And I don't know. I think we may have had a conversation about this very recently, but I think it skyrocketed the performance for me, especially just having that contrast, like when I'm home, I'm here to handle my business, focus on my health, focus on my mindset, focus on what's really important. And then when we separate that and put it on the actual pod structure, it was so much easier to hit those new levels, right? Because I mean, you're there for a week to 10 days with yourself and what you're willing to do. And if, it's very easy to just sit in the house, but it's a lot harder to do that when you're outside of your comfort zone in a different area with a couple people that are also highly motivated to get out the house.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you may not know this, but do you know who kind of came up with the idea of
So
pods?
wasn't it J-Rod?
Dude, it was our one and only Blake
One
Norton
and only Blake?
and J-Rod. They kind of spearheaded that together, and they actually got a fair amount of resistance.
That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. So thank God that we were able to implement that and take it and run with it, because I know a lot of people thrive in that setting, and I know you thrive in that setting.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, like, I know you've gone a lot of different places. If you had to pick out, like, your favorite place, your favorite trip that you've ever gone on.
Ooh. So I'm probably going to have two favorites for two different reasons. So the immediate town that comes to mind is Ely, Nevada. I have gone to Knox. It's a very small town in the Nevada mountains. It's a mining town. I've knocked that place enough times to where most people recognize me now. Walking around the area, I'll get waves. I'll get people coming up and saying, "Hey, how you been? You're back in town." And that's one of my favorite places, just getting to a place to where we can do our job efficiently enough, be people focused, service focused, to where even with elapsed time in between, people are still remembering me. People are still happy to come up and see how you're doing. That did a ton for my personal growth, and especially my confidence in building relationships too, because I've knocked that town with two different companies now. And obviously people had questions. Weren't you here with another company and now you're here with this company? And that forced me to kind of dig deep and really examine my roots of why am I back out here? Why do I feel confident enough to be back out here? And every time it just came back to relationship building. It came back to having awesome people over there. And obviously the paycheck is great. Ely, it's a little honey hole. These guys are mostly miners. They're mining gold. They got great income. And they have a huge need for Windows.
Absolutely.
But the place that made me grow the most was probably the Fort Collins trip. And the reason why I say that is there was a ton of money in Fort Collins, but that's a city that gets knocked a lot, right? And so being willing to push through that changed my entire perspective on life. And you'll have a lot of people of a full spectrum types of people in Fort Collins. It's a huge place. But yeah, that would probably be my second favorite, just based off of the growth factor. I've only been there once, and that was the turning point in my career where I buckled down and I said, hey, you know what? I'm really going to do this. So Ely is probably my favorite place for, your average reasons. Fort Collins holds a special place in my heart because that's where everything changed. That's when I decided to really double down, buy into this, buy into myself. And yeah, after that, the rest was history.
It's pretty incredible, man.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Fort Collins is dude, that's a struggle bus. That's a bit of a struggle bus out there. Some people do really well. Others don't, and I think it boils down to saturation a little bit.
Well, what's interesting is, so I've seen quite a few people knock it. Every time we go there, the amount of appointments that are set is typically a lot lower than other areas. But as far as the set to ran to close ratio, it's almost always 90 or 100%. And usually if it's not 100%, there was a little bit of tweaking that could have been done on the back end to prepare that appointment a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But that's the only place I've ever seen that happen. And I was actually reading something about saturation too. People say no 5 times before they say yes. In a saturated area, the way I like to look at it is most of the other reps are doing the heavy lifting for me. So all I have to do is get in front of them, build a little bit of a connection, ask them, hey, what is it that you guys would actually need to see, to move forward? And then it gets really easy just to say, hey, if we can give that, to you, is this something you'd be open to moving forward with? So... And that's just a little tidbit on the saturation. But yeah, Fort Collins was a great place.
And that's such a good mindset to have when it comes to saturation. I think that there's a lot of people in this industry that deal with that.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got our office down in Phoenix, and that's one of the biggest things. We've kind of had to tweak things a little bit just to get past that initial shutdown of, oh, Windows? Nah, we're good. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I really wanted to ask you about. You've kind of got this gravitational pull where you're so charismatic and you're super high energy. Where do you feel like that comes from?
Ooh, you want the honest answer?
Yes, please.
So statistically in my life, I was an introvert, believe it or not. I was someone that had a very hard time not taking things personally, and I did not have a lot of support growing up, like at all. I mean, I had my mom, but my mom was always doing so much to try and provide for me. She was never really there. She's a great person. I'm not saying that. Just I learned at a young age what it feels like to not have anyone believe in you. I learned from a young age what it feels like to have people expect things of you, but in no way, shape, or form being willing to help you get there. And I hated it. And so when I had my daughter, I'm a big believer in like kind of generational cycles. The same thing that happens to you, you end up doing to your kid. And so all I could think about was, how do I break this cycle? And for me, the overwhelming answer ended up being, you got to do it for yourself. I mean, it's a selfish reason for my daughter, but at the end of the day, it's incredibly empowering when you learn how to be your own biggest supporter. It's incredibly um, enlightening when you realize how to have those internal conversations and how to channel that to someone else's situation. And so, kind of where that hyperactivity comes from, I mean, I am ADHD, so that does help a little bit, but just comes from a place of one of my favorite mentors in life, Joel Taylor, used to tell me, do everything from a place of best intention. And so I really tried to hone in on that and just always come from a place of, what would I want someone to say to me if I was in their shoes? And so I found that gives me a huge amount of energy and enthusiasm in just helping pick other people up. And I get a huge amount of gratification from that. Everything's a selfish reason. So if you dig down deep enough, it's wanting to feel good about yourself. But yeah, that's kind of the history about where it comes from. And that's why for me, it's so important whenever I'm in a team environment, whenever I'm in a shared space, to do whatever I can do to try and uplift someone, do whatever I can do to try and help someone. Just tell them that they're awesome. Tell them they're very cool. Tell them they're badass. I don't know if we can cuss on here,
Yeah.
but yeah, just pretty much that's it. It's just from a place of wanting to, I don't know if a provide is the right word, but wanting to be a service person in more ways than just selling windows.
Help other people.
Absolutely.
Dude, that's kind of what we're all doing this for, right? We're not trying to make the sell. We're trying to help other people, and I think that you're very, very good at that.
I appreciate you trying to make me blush on camera.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
It's what I do. So, and that's just something that I've really noticed with you. You kind of have that natural leadership, and I think it really comes from an endearing place of just wanting to care for people. And I know that you talk about having ADHD all the time. I got 80 of those too, bro. So, and I know that a lot of times you hear people talk about it like, well, I can't do this because I got ADHD. I can't do this because I got ADHD. Well, I can't focus on, you don't really use it as a crutch. You more use it as a propellant more than anything else. Like, that's why I have so much energy. That's why I can do all these things. I think that there's probably a lot of people that might listen to this that could use some advice when it comes to how to
it gets
reposition.
better. So I'm also bipolar as an individual. And I spent my entire life being categorized as, you can't do this, you can do that, this is how you're supposed to act, this is how you're supposed to be. And over the last couple years, something very cool has happened where I realized the best thing I can do is own it, right? Here's a superpower that being bipolar and having ADHD does. I can reset faster than anyone else I know. I have literally built a reflex where, because I've embraced kind of my situation and I've really got to know myself internally, that I can see my signs and I can almost induce those signs to have a positive flip too. And just to kind of tie that into here, we're behind the knock and whatnot, just to tie that in, when I'm out on the doors and I'm getting my teeth kind of kicked in a little bit, what I've found is I can just take a step back and just like that, flip on a switch and be happy, be grateful, and be motivated. And that did come, with a little bit of practice, but it's only a crutch if you let it, right? I got every reason on paper to not be here and not to want to make it happen. And so for me, it's incredibly liberating being able to take those, what some might call disadvantages, and use it to unlock a part of myself that is unique, and it's unique in a way that it hopefully can inspire some other people too. As far as the ADHD, I've had to get really good at using apps, but and it's like those apps where you can plan out your day and they give you micro tasks so you can get that little dopamine kick and whatnot. And just reprogramming my brain to get that gratification from being able to take challenging tasks, right? So if I was to give advice to someone else, I would say own it. Like, you are born with what you're born with. You're here with what you're here with, right? You can't change that. But what you can do is learn to sharpen it, learn to hone it in, right? And if you're given a unique mind, it's a gift if you want it to be a gift. It's a liability if you want it to be a liability, right? So I think it just all comes back to, are you ready to give yourself that chance? The first step I had to do was learn how to love myself and accept myself. But as soon as that happened, I started to realize, wait a minute, there's a lot more here. There's a lot more we can do with this. There's a lot more ways we can take it. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I just say
Fucking
bottom
beautiful.
line, embrace it. Love it. Love yourself. Be who you are unapologetically, because if you have something like ADHD, if you have something like, being bipolar, whatever it may be, that's your superpower. You just have to learn how to reframe your mind and channel it a different way.
It's
But
fucking beautiful, Callum.
I can also go a lot longer in terms of challenging situations than most people, and I could put up with a lot more stress because of that too, because I've learned how to have the first wind and the second wind, and I've learned how to ride the loads and stay consistent and just let the highs soar. So yeah, embrace yourself, love yourself.
Love it, dude. That was a great answer. And just kind of circling back to door to door
Mm-hmm.
windows in general, how important is it to kind of have that empowering mindset when you're out there on the doors? Because I think that a lot of people that haven't done this before don't realize the amount of rejection that you actually deal with
It's
on a daily
paramount,
basis.
like 100%. There's really only one thing that makes this job. Like, as human beings, we are not designed to deal with rejection day in and day out. It's why it's such a hard job, but it's also why if you look at any single person who has done this job for any amount of time, you cannot not find a growth pattern. You cannot see a cycle of overcoming all sorts of obstacles, right? There was someone that we just left the team, but it's a very, very cool person. He has a couple things that he had to deal with that impacted his speech and his hands. And this was someone that when he came here had never even remotely thought that he could have a grasp on that stuff. And so when he went into the doors and he started kind of going through the ups and downs, when he started going through that rejection, something cool happened where he realized that it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, you get told no enough times, it stops being no. It just means not right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as mindset on the door, absolutely important. It's the biggest thing that'll make or break you. This job's easy if you can take a no. And I, again, shout out to my mentor, Joel Taylor. But he taught me something that has changed the trajectory of my knocking career, which is leave every door better than you found it, right? Why do we do that? If someone's going to tell you no and slam the door in your face, why would you want to leave that door better than you found it? It's about you, right? So you say, no, I'm not interested. Even if you tell me to get the heck out of here, I'm going to say, I still hope you have an amazing day, because that protects my integrity. That protects my ability to leave that door with my head held high, right? And to kind of claim that energy a little bit. I mean, I could go on and on about examples, but it all comes back to love, right? It all comes back to loving yourself. If you can love yourself genuinely and truly, your mindset is going to be unbreakable, right? And if you have a good mindset with this job, literally the sky is your limit. And it probably need windows.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good segue. Good job, Callum. So, I really want to know, you've been in the industry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You've bounced around a little bit. What led you back
As in what led me back to Proficient?
to Proficient Windows?
Ooh, I like that question. Well, first and foremost, it's the leadership that was already here. Having an opportunity to work with you, having an opportunity to work with J-Rod, knowing Isaiah, knowing Elijah, Baylor, a couple of the other guys. and really taking some time to understand what were the reasons that you guys decided to make this move. And then not only that, but being able to see those values line up with what you guys are doing, right? So in door to door, we always have the guys that come in first week, they absolutely crush it, and then they inevitably hit a rut, and that throws them through a loop. So something for me that really did stand out too is when Proficient started, it had every reason to not succeed, right? But we're still here, still growing. It's becoming a focal point of the industry, right? Through, these awesome podcasts and a couple other ways. And to see that tenacity as far as what company I'm looking to grow and what company I'm looking to grow with, should I say, that's huge. So you guys are definitely a huge factor. The other part is the transparency, right? So I've been in a couple different places in the industry, and there's always this attitude of secrecy, of it's above your pay grade. It's you guys don't need to worry about that because it doesn't concern you. Coming here and talking to a lot of the people at Proficient Windows, transparency is huge, right? And that's really, really important because if people can't truly understand the situation they're in on a clear standing, they're not going to grow past that situation. So when you have leadership that is willing to be transparent, is willing to actually stand on the virtues and the integrity they, display through their actions, that for me was a no-brainer. And then the last part is having an opportunity to build. I'm a creator by nature. I've been in the door-to-door space for a little bit, and I've wanted to find somewhere that matches my own values, sees the value in myself, is willing to, and I'm talking kind of just about me for a second, just kind of answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
but being willing to find an environment that is prepared to give me the room that I need to grow. And that was incredible. One of the reasons I left the last place was one of those biggest reasons. I felt like I had to shrink myself down to fit in that environment. And I don't want to get, too far into the specifics, but that was kind of soul destroying, like feeling like I am not accepted at my truest form. And ever since I've been at Proficient, that's everything that I felt. I finally feel like I found a group of people that not only believe in me, but see the value, but actually want to see me grow versus liking the idea of me growing. Does that make any sense?
Of course. Yep. You're a peacock, bro. We gotta let you fly.
Gotta let you fly.
Gotta let you fly. And we see you, dude. We see you. I think that you bring a lot of value to the team. You add a ton to the culture.
Appreciate you saying that.
Of course. And I think that it leads directly into something that I want to ask you next is just kind of in general, I know that you've been involved in a lot of different companies, a lot of different cultures. How important do you feel like culture is when it comes to sustainability?
You cannot have sustainability without a positive culture, point blank, period. I mean, this is a fast industry that is a fast growing industry. It's highly competitive. There are a lot of options. People don't quit the jobs, they quit leadership, right? So, leadership's number one, in my opinion, responsibility is that culture. And that directly ties into personal growth. That ties into transparency, integrity. We could go down the list. So, I mean, yeah, you cannot have sustainability in this space without having the culture, the mindset, and congruency between the two at the forefront of the operation. So it's very, very important.
Good. Yeah, dude, I agree 100%. And I actually have a little bit of a tangent. So yesterday we did a couple interviews with like Kyle, and one of the questions that I asked was, what was like the worst trip that you ever went on?
Ooh.
Like the worst pod trip that you ever went on, worst sleeping situation, whatever that looks like.
Is that the question you want to ask?
What's the worst pod that you've ever gone on?
Ooh. Excuse me. I'm trying to distill it down in my head to a couple options. Probably the last trip that I went to in Manti. And not because there wasn't money there, but because there is the circumstances of the last trip that I went on, the individuals that were responsible for that trip, in my opinion, are fighting a losing battle by refusing to accept that the industry is changing. And when we talk about these small towns where that do not have a ton of people moving into them, there's not a ton of ways you can keep using brute force. And so that trip for me was very, very, it almost took me out of the door to door space because I felt so sleazy and trying to just push the same script with the same situation in the same town that there are people right next door that have bought Windows from a company and haven't gotten them installed and are delayed or not having communication. So that was probably because I have all the trips, right, that have I didn't have a bed or I didn't do too well or I didn't make a lot of money, right? But for me, that's okay. That's part of the job, that's part of the industry. It sucks when you're in a town and especially when you have a desire to figure it out, but you're put in a box because you're shaking things up. You're put in a box because what you're trying to do is going to break the normal, quid pro quo with how things are going. So, yeah, probably Manti. And then you're going to laugh, but also Fort Collins. I got my teeth kicked in Fort Collins. That's probably why there was a ton of growth. I still made great money, but I mean, it's never fun getting yelled at on the doors.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I always try to answer the questions with like two sides too, because I try to think about it like what's the obvious choice and what's the not obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a side bit, I think when you do that exercise of examining both sides, you can really start to see where the growth pattern is and where and what needs to be fixed and what needs to be tinkered to can actually happen. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. What are some of the things in that? Let's just kind of narrow it down to that Fort Collins trip, because I know you made a lot of money out there. You did ultimately pretty good. What are some of the things that kept you going?
The camaraderie, the fact that the team we had at the time just came together and picked each other up. I mean, at 4 or 5 o'clock at night, we were all just calling each other like, how can I help? What can I can do? But it went further than that. We all took it a point to like invite each other out, go out to eat together, go camp together, just do things together. And that camaraderie, that team environment, that's what's going to pick you up, right? But it's a little bit deeper than that. Everybody that I was around on that trip had an incredible why, right? We always talk about whys in this industry. Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to get what I'm trying to get out of it? And a lot of people will give you a why, but it's not a real why. On that trip, I felt like every person there had a truly genuine reason as to why they were there and why they wanted this to work. And on top of that, we were working for a company at the time that everyone believed in, right? Because at the time, JKR made it a huge point to put status first, to put people that are on the maybe not the most glamorous position, but to really hype them up, right? And so I was really bought into that as well. And the idea of when we knock a door and we sell Windows, that doesn't just put money in our pockets, that puts money in the people's pockets who are installing the Windows. That feeds everyone from the sales rep all the way down to the person who delivers the supplies to the manufacturing facility. So I was really, really bought into that idea of this is so much bigger than me. It's not just about what I'm getting from this door. It's what can everyone get from this door? What lessons can I give someone else? So yeah, mindset was probably the biggest thing, and I don't think I'd have that mindset without the people around us. So especially Isaiah. Isaiah was on that trip, and that was a trip I really realized this man is born to lead because he stepped up. I don't know if he ever knows this, but he did a ton for me that trip too.
He's a dog.
More than a dog.
Yeah.
He is a super dog.
He's the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really happy and lucky to have Isaiah. That's for sure. So, moving past that, here at Proficient, I know that you've got a lot of goals. You've got a lot of aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
You're super tenacious. And that's one of the reasons why you and I had multiple conversations leading into you coming over here.
I may have bugged you a little bit with a couple calls.
I wouldn't even call it bug, dude. I loved the questions that you were asking because it showed me that you cared a lot and that you were, one of the things that you kept saying was like, I want this to be the last thing that I do. Mm-hmm. I want this to be the last move that I make. I'd moved around a little bit and I just got to be sure that this is the last thing that I do. I want to know what some of your goals are, man. Like a year from now, what do you What does that look like for you?
So I'm gonna be running an office. By then, I'm gonna be working on a regional position. I'm gonna be at that point focusing on building up a couple more people to step into a leadership role. I plan on having a digital lead pipeline set up through social media content, which is why this makes me super, super excited. Um, I'm gonna be in the gym, which I guess is a personal goal. But as far as work, yeah, like I wanna take all of the stress away from. So I'm not with the mother of my child, but she does a phenomenal job. And the reason I'm able to do this job is because she's willing to step up and sacrifice her own opportunities, even though we're not together in the era of raising our own kid together. And so, yeah, I just want to become the best version of myself. I want to get to an office. I want to work on a regional position. I want to learn how to set up pipelines, get into social media. I want to learn how to inspire and motivate people. And yeah, this Proficient, I'm 100% confident is going to be the stepping stone that takes me exactly where I need to be. So if I was to simmer it down into, let's just say, 4 goals, it would be running an office and getting the gratification that I can do that. And this is a level that I can achieve. It's going to be, like I said, the digital pipeline and social media. I have a huge interest in that, in learning that skill set. I want to obviously become the best possible version of myself as far as my health, my work habits, the best practices that I follow both on and off the door. But the last thing, and this kind of ties into the first thing, is I want to replicate my story. I know a lot of people that are stuck in Vegas. I know a lot of people that are stuck all over the place, actually, that it's never once occurred to them that they could do this. And when I was in Vegas, I used to dream about being this person, and I had no idea how to get there. I had no idea how it would happen. And here I am 3 years later. So I'd say the last goal is kind of the same as the first. That's why the first of kind of progressing up and helping someone come into leadership is a goal. But yeah, I want to, when I eventually do leave this space, I want to know I made a difference, not just for myself, not just for other people, but I want to make sure, even if it's just one person, that I was able to help them realize the same potential internally that someone helped me realize. So
It's an amazing goal.
thank you.
Bro, next time we see you in this seat, you better be fucking jacked, homie.
Oh, we're
Jacked.
going. We're going.
You're going to have an office. You're going to be all jacked up. Yeah, bro.
Hopefully.
It's going to be sick. So if you mentioned that there's a lot of people in Vegas that don't even realize that they could do something like this. And I think that there's people like that all around the country right now
Absolutely.
that have no idea that this is even an option, and that there's an option to not just make an hourly wage, and that there's an option to make fucking 6-7 figure income.
I know 3 people that are 25 to 27 this year that have made, actually one of them's 21, but I know 3 people from that 20 to 27 that have made $50,000-$60,000 or more in a month. One of my other buddies that I know actually made, I think, 88 grand in a month, and he only worked 3 weeks.
It's wild.
It's insane.
Yep.
So if I genuinely truly believe if people really understood what the potential is in this industry, kind of exactly like you said, you know?
If you could talk to them, what would you say? If they were listening right now, if they were watching this, what would you say to them?
Take a chance. 100%. What's the worst that's going to happen? You go back to where you're at. Those 9 to 5 jobs are going to be there. Those regular skill labor jobs, they're going to be there, right? Jump in. Take that chance. You really never know where it can end up. 100%.
Amazing. One last question. What do you like to do on your off time?
So I'm a huge, obviously spend a ton of time with my kid, but I'm a huge nerd. I've played D&D growing up. I played Magic. I've played tabletop Warhammer. I'm all into RTS games. I've even learned a little bit of like kind of coding on forums, and I've done like RuneScape, you name it. If it's in that category, I've done it. So as far as my off time, if I'm not, hanging out with my kid, and she's my entire world, so she's the reason I get up every day. But we do have to split, being parents and whatnot. So yeah, I'm usually I play a lot of games with Danny. We play a lot of Warzone, but the reason why video games are so important for me is everything that I went through in my life has made it harder to reconnect with my younger self. And so I like to hold on to video games because when I get, and obviously I have all my responsibilities taken care of, I'm doing everything I need to do, but when I get those small moments of time, it's more than just playing a game. It's me connecting to my younger self, right? And I just see myself sitting there and smiling, and yeah, try to keep it pretty simple. I'm gonna add going to the gym into it. I do like to cook. I'm not the best cook, but I do experiment. I dibble and dabble a little bit. But and I also like hiking, actually.
Nice.
But I will hike to go. I will hike to go play like Risk or read a book on lore for a video game or something. So, but yeah, I try to keep it pretty simple and just do what I enjoy. You know what I'm saying?
What's your favorite hike here?
Oh, I'm going to say the Narrows. When the Narrows, like not when it's completely dry or completely full, but when you hit that sweet threshold where there's water everywhere, but it's super clear and then you just have those drops. I love that hike. I've probably done that hike 6 or 7 times.
That's awesome.
I love just kind of pretending to talk to people and then just disappearing.
Yeah.
I actually scared the crap out of my mom doing that.
Nice.
But it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Hell yeah, bro. Well, that's amazing, Callum. We're happy to have you, bro.
I'm happy to be here.
Dude, we're so fucking blessed to have you on this team. You're a natural born leader. I'm excited to see what you can do here.
You're making me blush again.
Yeah, well, I might do that. So, yeah, bro. Let's take this to the fucking moon.
I'm ready. I'm here for the next, at least I told Danny this when I came in, this is where I can leave it at. For me, this isn't a maybe. I'm here for 5 years. We're either going to be in the sky or I'm going to be in the ground with you. But yeah. This is working and I'm going to be here for 5 years.
That's right.
Bare minimum. Because, I mean, that's what I said coming in. Like, I've made commitments to myself of who I'm going to become on the journey here and things I'm going to accomplish and the people that I'm going to do it with. And 100%, there is no plan B. It's Proficient Windows or die.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
Okay, well, we'll end it there. That was our podcast with Callum Clemo. If you want to see more, like, subscribe, follow, all that bullshit. We'll see you next time.